The most dangerous enemy you will ever face doesn't live out there. It lives inside your own mind. It waits in silence, watching. It whispers the moment you get close to victory. And just when you're about to rise, it pulls you back into the dark. Carl Jung called this force the shadow. Modern psychology calls it self-sabotage. I call it the dark psychology of your own destruction. Think about it. How many times have you been right on the edge of breakthrough, a promotion, a new relationship, a healthier body, only to ruin it yourself? You procrastinate, you pick fights, you fall back into old habits. And afterwards you sit in the ruins asking, why do I keep doing this to myself? This isn't just weakness. It isn't just bad luck. Jung warned that self-sabotage is a message from the depths of your unconscious, a part of you that believes it's protecting you, even as it destroys everything you want. In this video, we're going to uncover Jung's terrifying warning, why your own shadow fights against your success, how to recognize the invisible patterns that keep pulling you down, and most importantly, how to face the enemy within before it consumes your life. A few years ago, a man I knew made a radical decision. His doctor had warned him, if you keep living like this, your health will collapse. He took the warning seriously. For 3 months, he transformed his life. He exercised every day, cooked his own meals, went to bed early. His body changed, his mood lifted. Even his lab results shocked his doctor. Friends saw him glowing with energy, finally walking the path he was meant to walk. But then it started. One missed workout, one skipped meal plan, one night of lost sleep. Just this once, he told himself. But the once became a new habit. Soon, fast food replaced discipline. Late nights replaced rest. Within weeks, everything he had built crumbled. His energy vanished. His old habits reclaimed him. And this wasn't the first time. He realized that every time he stood on the edge of real change, he sabotaged himself. He's not alone. One man in his 60s once admitted, I could have been so much more. I always stopped myself right at the brink. I was my own greatest enemy. Another person described it this way. When people try to help me, I push them away. When someone cares for me, I ghost them. But the moment someone needs me, I rush to their side while my own life falls apart. This is the brutal truth. Self-sabotage doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It's not just procrastination. It's not just laziness. It is a hidden force pulling the strings of your life. And Jung warned us. That force has a name, the shadow. A part of you you've buried, but that never stopped watching. And the closer you get to becoming who you could be, the more violently it pulls you back. To understand why we sabotage ourselves, we have to understand the man who revealed the truth about the hidden forces in our mind, Carl Gustav Jung. Born in Switzerland in 1875, Jung began as a close collaborator of Sigmund Freud. But while Freud reduced everything to repressed desires, Jung saw deeper. He discovered that beneath our conscious thoughts lies an entire world, a personal unconscious filled with forgotten memories, and beyond that, a collective unconscious shared by all of humanity. From this discovery came ideas that shaped modern psychology: introvert and extrovert, the persona, complexes. But Jung's most dangerous insight was about the shadow. The shadow is every part of yourself you've denied, rejected, or buried. The anger you weren't allowed to show, the ambition your family told you was selfish, the vulnerability the world mocked. All of it banished into the dark. But here's the truth. Those parts never disappear. They wait, they gather strength, and they come back, not as your ally, but as your saboteur. One viewer once said, I thought the shadow was just Star Wars. Now I realize it's the reason I've destroyed my own chances in life. That realization is terrifying, because it means the greatest enemy of your success is not society, not bad luck, not even the people around you. It's you. Jung warned. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Self-sabotage is not random. It's not weakness. It's your shadow at work, pulling you back the moment you step into the light. One man described it perfectly. When people try to help me, I push them away. When someone wants to get close, I disappear. But if someone needs me, I drop everything to help them, while my own life falls apart. That's not coincidence. That's the shadow. Jung understood. These behaviors are not random mistakes. They're not weakness. They are the strategies of your unconscious, a force that believes it's protecting you. But ask yourself, protecting you from what? From success? From love? From freedom? This is the paradox. The shadow sabotages not because it hates you, but because it fears what comes next. Change is terrifying to the unconscious. To grow means to kill the old self, and your shadow clings to survival, even if that means destroying your future. Now let's strip away the excuses. What does self-sabotage actually look like in everyday life? It looks like procrastination, putting off the very thing that could change your life. You know the deadline, you know the consequences, and yet you delay until opportunity rots in front of you. It looks like self-medication, reaching for food, alcohol, endless scrolling, anything that numbs you in the moment but poisons you long-term. It looks like relationship sabotage, picking a fight right when intimacy grows too close, pushing away the very person who sees you, ghosting the one who cared. It looks like career destruction, saying no to opportunities, downplaying your abilities, or creating conflict at the exact moment you should rise. The pattern is always the same. Just when change is about to happen, just when growth feels possible, something inside you slams the brakes. If you want to understand why you sabotage yourself today, you have to go back, not to last year, not to your last relationship, but to your childhood. Jung believed that many of our unconscious patterns are born in what he called complexes. These are emotionally charged knots of memory, belief, and pain created in our earliest years, and they live inside us long after we've grown. Think of the child who learns that anger is forbidden. He doesn't stop feeling anger, he just buries it. Later, that anger leaks out as passive aggression, exhaustion, or sudden explosions he doesn't understand. Think of the girl who was constantly compared to her siblings. She grows up believing she's never good enough. Decades later, even as a successful professional, one toxic boss can reduce her to that same insecure child, defensive, broken, and desperate to prove herself. One viewer put it perfectly. My mother compared me to my brothers, always telling me I wasn't good enough. Even now, when I achieve something, I still feel like I have to prove myself to everyone. And when I get a boss who tries to put me down, I collapse inside. This is the tragedy. What once protected us as children now destroys us as adults. The little boy who hid his feelings to avoid rejection becomes the man who can't form intimacy. The girl who swallowed her ambition to please her parents becomes the woman who sabotages her own success. And yet, from the psyche's point of view, this isn't madness. It's survival. The child learned, if I hide this part of myself, I'll be safe. That strategy worked when you were small. But now it betrays you, because the very parts you bury are the keys to your wholeness. Jung wrote, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. But to choose who you become, you first have to see how your past still speaks through you today. Otherwise, you're not choosing at all. You're just replaying the same old wound on repeat. Here's the paradox Jung revealed. Self-sabotage isn't always dysfunction. Sometimes it's the psyche's desperate attempt to protect you, to keep balance when you've gone too far in one direction. Imagine the workaholic who spends years obsessed with success. Then suddenly he loses all motivation, abandons projects, lets his life collapse. Is that laziness? Or is it his unconscious demanding balance? If you won't rest, I'll force you to. Jung called this principle enantiodromia, the tendency of things to flip into their opposite when pushed to extremes. The harder you repress something essential, the more violently it eventually erupts. That's why the person who buries anger becomes consumed by rage. The one who denies desire falls into addiction. The one who hides their vulnerability sabotages every chance at love. One man described it perfectly. I follow every rule to stay safe, but when it matters most, I freeze, hesitate, and lose my chance. I realize now it's fear of responsibility, fear of what happens if I succeed. Your psyche doesn't just want survival, it wants wholeness. And if your conscious ego clings too tightly to one identity, the helper, the achiever, the caretaker, your shadow will attack it. Not to destroy you, but to humble you, to force you to see the parts of yourself you've buried. Jung saw it clearly. Sabotage is not always the end. Sometimes it's a message, a violent knock at the door of your soul saying you've lost balance. Come back, face what you've denied. And this is where the real war begins, between who you think you are and who you actually are. At the heart of Jung's psychology lies one mission: individuation, the lifelong journey toward wholeness, the integration of every part of who you are, both the light and the shadow. But here's the catch. Individuation demands transformation, and transformation is terrifying, because to grow means to kill the old self. This is why we sabotage ourselves. Consciously, we say we want success, love, freedom, but unconsciously, a part of us whispers, "If you change, I will die." That whisper belongs to the ego, the fragile image you built of who you are. Think about it. The man who built his entire identity on being the caretaker will sabotage any attempt to stand on his own, because without others needing him, who is he? The woman who has lived as the responsible one will destroy her own success the moment it demands freedom, because responsibility has been her mask, and freedom feels like death. Jung warned, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. The closer you get to becoming your true self, the louder the resistance becomes. That resistance is sabotage. And maybe this is the darkest truth. Many of us fear becoming who we truly are more than we fear failure itself, because success demands responsibility, love demands vulnerability, freedom demands courage. Jung wrote, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's why people will do anything to avoid facing their soul. They will ruin their health, their relationships, their careers, just to escape that confrontation. But Jung also gave us hope. He said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. And the only way there is through the shadow, not around it, not by ignoring it, but by facing it head on." Self-sabotage, then, is not just the enemy. It is the gatekeeper, the threshold you must cross to become whole. Awareness is the first step. You cannot fight what you refuse to see. Jung believed that the unconscious doesn't stay hidden forever. It shows itself through patterns, projections, and dreams. So how do you recognize your own sabotage? Start with your dreams. Do you dream of being chased, of missing something important, of standing unprepared in front of others? These are not random. They are your unconscious staging the battles you avoid in waking life. Next, look at your triggers. Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Who frustrates you the most? Who do you criticize obsessively? Often they carry the very traits you've buried in your own shadow. Then, look at repetition. What patterns keep showing up in your life? Do relationships always collapse at the same point? Do you always quit right before breakthrough? These are not coincidences. They are the fingerprints of your shadow. One man put it like this: I always follow the rules to feel safe, but when it matters most, I freeze. I overthink, I hesitate, and I watch the opportunity pass. That hesitation isn't logic, it's fear. The fear of responsibility, of stepping into the unknown. To make this practical, ask yourself, at what point do things usually go wrong for me? What traits in others trigger the strongest reactions in me? What part of myself do I work hardest to hide? When do I most often betray myself? These questions are not comfortable. They're not meant to be. Jung didn't promise comfort. He promised truth. And if you have the courage to ask honestly, you will begin to see the shadow's hand in your life. Because the first victory against sabotage is not defeating it, it's naming it, looking it in the eye and saying, I see you. Jung never said, defeat your shadow. He said, integrate it. Because the more you fight against your shadow, the stronger it becomes. What you repress doesn't vanish, it mutates. Integration means building a conscious relationship with the parts of yourself you've denied. Instead of saying, this is not me, you begin to ask, why is this here? What does it want? So how do you do this? First, dream analysis. Your dreams are letters from the unconscious. Keep a journal. Write down the characters that disturb you, the ones who scare you or tempt you. Often they are your shadow wearing a mask. Second, active imagination. Jung developed this as a way to speak directly with the unconscious. Imagine your sabotaging behavior as a figure. Sit across from it in your mind. Ask it, why are you here? What are you afraid of? Write down its answers. You may be shocked by the honesty of what emerges. Third, symbolic understanding. Instead of treating sabotage as just failure, treat it as a symbol. If you quit every time you're close to success, maybe your psyche is screaming, you fear what success demands. That is not weakness, that is information. Fourth, creative expression, art, writing, movement, anything that allows unconscious content to emerge safely. A drawing can reveal more about your shadow than 1,000 logical thoughts. And remember, integration is not about unleashing chaos. It's about containment. You don't let anger explode uncontrollably. You learn to express it as assertiveness. You don't suppress desire until it mutates into addiction. You channel it into creation, intimacy, vitality. One viewer said it well. I've read about shadow work for years, but I never knew how to actually integrate. Now I realize it's not about killing the darkness. It's about giving it a place at the table so it doesn't break down the door. This is the path Jung laid out. To make peace with your own darkness so that what once sabotaged you becomes fuel for your growth. Every great story has a monster. For the hero, it is never just the dragon, the labyrinth, or the battlefield. The real monster is within. Jung understood this. He He saw the confrontation with the shadow as part of the ancient hero's journey, a universal pattern that runs through every myth, every culture, every human life. Self-sabotage is not just an obstacle, it is the test, the threshold you must cross to become who you truly are. The hero does not kill the shadow, he transforms it. He takes its strength, its fire, its wisdom, and integrates it into himself. That is what makes him whole. And so it is with you. The moments you ruin your own progress, the nights you fall back into the same destructive habits, the relationships you break when they get too close. These are not just failures. They are invitations, wounds that demand your attention. Shadows that carry the key to your growth. Jung wrote, "The attainment of wholeness requires one to stake one's whole being. Nothing less will do. That is the price. Not comfort, not safety, but courage. The courage to look at your shadow and say, 'I see you. You are me, and I will not run anymore.' Your shadow will always walk with you. The choice is whether it drags you into the dark or whether you walk into the light together. Remember this, your greatest enemy is not outside. It is the unseen hand on your shoulder, pulling you back from the doorway. And your greatest victory will not be over others, but over yourself. Because as Jung warned, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. And awakening begins the moment you dare to face your shadow.